My brother kissed my fiancée on our engagement night, but my family took his side. 5 years later, he is at my doorstep begging for money, and my family is furious I won't give him a dime. I found them in my own bedroom during our engagement party. I'd gone upstairs to grab June's gift, a $12,000 vintage necklace I'd saved for months to buy. Instead, I walked in on my brother Colin with his hands all over my fiancée. They didn't even hear me open the door. When they finally noticed me standing there, June didn't apologize. She said they'd been seeing each other for 8 months, that she only said yes when I proposed because she thought committing would make her feelings for Colin go away. It didn't. It made them worse. Colin looked me dead in the eye and said, "I'm sorry, bro, but we're in love." Then he put his arm around her. I left that night and stayed at a hotel for 4 days. When I finally came back to pack my things, my entire family was there waiting. My parents, my uncle, even my grandmother. They'd all known for weeks. My dad actually hugged Colin and said, "Sometimes love happens in unexpected ways." My mom told me I was being immature and that I should be happy my brother found his soulmate. My grandmother said, "These things happen and you need to let it go." When I said I was moving out, June announced she was moving in with Colin. My parents smiled. My dad wiped tears from his eyes when Colin kissed her right in front of me. When I called them disgusting, my mom said I was making it all about myself. They got married 3 weeks later. I got the invitation at my new apartment. Every single mutual friend declined and stopped talking to my family. Even my aunt and 2 cousins cut them off completely. I moved to Seattle that month, deleted social media, changed my number, started over completely. For the first 2 years, I slept on a friend's couch and taught myself to code. I ate ramen most nights and worked as a night security guard to pay for online courses. By year 3, I built a small app that took off. By year 4, I had investors. By year 5, I'd sold my company for $3.2 million and started 2 more. I kept my Instagram public on purpose. I wanted them to see the penthouse, the cars, the life I built without them. Petty? Absolutely. Satisfying? You have no idea. Last Tuesday morning, my assistant told me someone named Colin was in the lobby demanding to see me. No appointment, no call ahead, just showed up. I almost had security throw him out, but curiosity got the better of me. The man who walked into my office looked nothing like my brother. He'd lost at least 30 pounds. His shirt was wrinkled, his jeans had a hole in the knee, and his hands were shaking. He didn't even say hello, just, "I need $80,000. I leaned back in my chair and asked why I should care. He said their boutique marketing agency went under after their biggest client backed out. They'd taken loans to cover payroll, and now collectors were calling daily. Their house was in foreclosure. June's car got repossessed last month. They'd already borrowed everything from both sets of parents. I asked why he didn't just get a job. He said nobody would hire him with his credit destroyed. He started crying. Actually crying. Said they had a 4-year-old son and he was terrified they'd lose custody if they became homeless. "Please," he said, "we're family." I laughed. I couldn't help it. I told him that family doesn't steal your fiancé and then expect a bailout 5 years later. I suggested June sell her engagement ring, the one that used to be intended for me. He left without another word. That night, my dad called from Colin's phone. He screamed for 20 minutes about how I was destroying the family. How could I let my nephew suffer because of my pride? My mom sent 47 texts, calling me heartless, cruel, and selfish. Then Colin posted on Facebook a long sob story about his successful brother who refused to help family in need. 3 weeks passed. Then June called from an unknown number, whispering like she was hiding. She'd found old emails from before they got together. Colin had researched what I liked in women. He'd asked my ex what my type was. He'd told June which personality traits to emphasize around me. She'd thought it was romantic. Now she understood he'd been experimenting. I told her I didn't care. She screamed, "He still sets timers for when you post, so he never misses one." Colin's voice erupted in the background. Something crashed. June's scream cut off. The line went dead. I tried calling back immediately. A man's voice answered. It wasn't Colin. He said he was their neighbor and I needed to send someone to their address right now. I stood there in my penthouse kitchen, phone still pressed against my ear, listening to this stranger's voice tell me there was yelling and things breaking and he was pretty sure someone was hurt. The address he gave me was across town, some apartment complex I'd never heard of. I told him I'd handle it and hung up. For maybe 10 seconds, I just stared at my phone. Part of me wanted to block the number and go back to my life, but June's scream kept replaying in my head. Whatever Colin had done to me, I couldn't just leave her there. I grabbed my keys and drove across the city. The building was one of those places with peeling paint and a broken gate that never closes. 3rd floor, apartment 3C. I took the stairs because the elevator looked like a health code violation. When I got to their door, everything was quiet. I knocked. The neighbor from earlier opened his door across the hall, gray-haired guy in his 60s wearing a bathrobe. "You the brother?" "Yeah. She left about 20 minutes ago. Had the kid with her. Your brother's still in there, I think. Haven't heard anything since she took off." I knocked again, harder this time. "Colin, open the door." Nothing. I tried the handle. Unlocked. The apartment was small, basically one room with a kitchen area and a hallway leading to what I assumed was a bedroom. The place was trashed. A lamp was shattered on the floor, couch cushions thrown everywhere, and there was a hole punched in the drywall near the TV. Colin was sitting on the floor in the corner, knees pulled up to his chest, staring at his phone. He didn't look up when I walked in. "Where's June?" I asked. "Gone." His voice was flat, empty. "Took him to her mom's." "What happened?" He finally looked at me. His eyes were red, face pale and drawn. "She found my phone." "And?" He held it up. The screen showed my Instagram page. She saw everything. I walked closer and he unlocked it, started scrolling. Photo after photo of me. Screenshots organized into folders by month and year. There were hundreds of them. Pictures of me at restaurants, at the gym, standing outside my office building, even just random selfies I'd posted. Each one had a timestamp and sometimes notes in the caption. July 15th, 11:47 a.m., outside Belltown Fitness, I read from one. Wearing gray Nike shirt, black shorts, posted motivational quote about persistence. Colin nodded slowly. "I've been tracking everything you post. What you wear, where you go, what time you post. I have it all documented." "For how long? 2 years? Maybe longer? I don't know anymore." I scrolled through more folders. One was just screenshots of my cars. Another was my apartment building taken from different angles on the street. There was even a folder of my LinkedIn posts about the company sale. "June didn't know about this?" I asked. "She knew I looked at your stuff sometimes. She didn't know I had all of this. She definitely didn't know about the clothes." "What clothes?" He stood up and walked to the bedroom. I followed. The closet was open. Inside were shirts, jackets, even shoes that looked exactly like things I owned. He pulled out a gray Nike shirt identical to the one in the photo. "I buy the same things you buy," he said quietly. "When you post a picture in something, I find out where it's from and I order it. I've been doing it for over a year." "Why?" "Because looking at your life isn't enough. I need to feel closer to it somehow. Wearing your clothes makes me feel like I'm part of it, you know?" I stared at him. This wasn't my brother anymore. This was someone I didn't recognize. "Colin, this is insane. You understand that, right?" "I know." He sat down on the bed, put his face in his hands. "I know it's crazy, but I can't stop. When I see you succeeding and living this perfect life, it makes everything I'm doing feel worthless. The only way I can handle it is by studying you, learning everything about you. It's the only thing that makes me feel okay. So you stalked me." "I guess, yeah." June's voice came back to me. "He still sets timers for when you post so he never misses one." I looked at his phone again, still unlocked in his hand. "Show me the timers." He hesitated, then opened his clock app. There were dozens of alarms set throughout the day. 6 o'clock a.m., 9:30 a.m., 12:15 p.m., 3:45 p.m., 7 o'clock p.m., 10:30 p.m., each one labeled with my name. "You set alarms for when I might post?" "For when you usually post." I tracked the patterns. "You post in the morning before work, during lunch, after the gym, and late at night. I have alarms so I don't miss anything." The neighbor's words came back to me. Someone was hurt. "Did you hit her?" "What? No. God, no. She grabbed my phone and I tried to get it back and we were both pulling and she fell into the lamp. I swear I didn't hurt her. I would never hurt her." "But you destroyed the apartment." "After she left. I was angry. I didn't know what else to do." I looked around the bedroom. It was surprisingly neat compared to the living room. The bed was made, no clothes on the floor. Then I noticed the wall above the dresser. There were photos taped up, not of June or their kid, of me. Printed Instagram posts arranged in a grid. "You have pictures of me on your wall." "Just a few. They motivate me." "To do what?" He didn't answer. I pulled out my phone and called June. She answered on the second ring. "Are you okay?" I asked. "I'm at my mom's. We're fine." "Is he there?" "Yeah, I'm at your apartment. He showed me the phone." She let out a long breath. "It's worse than the phone. There's more." "What do you mean?" "Check his laptop. It's under the bed. Password is your birthday." I looked at Colin. "Your laptop password is my birthday?" He just stared at the floor. I found the laptop right where she said it would be, opened it, typed in my birthday. It unlocked immediately. The desktop background was a photo of me standing outside my office building. I didn't even remember posting that one. "What am I looking for?" I asked June. "There's a folder called Work Projects. Open it." I found the folder and clicked. Inside were dozens of documents, Excel spreadsheets, Word files, PDFs. I opened the first Excel file. It was a schedule, my schedule. Days of the week across the top, times down the left side. Each cell was filled with my activities based on Instagram geotags and posts. Monday, 6 o'clock a.m., Belltown Fitness. Monday, 8:30 a.m., office, 4th Ave. Monday, 12:30 p.m., usual lunch spot or client meeting. The detail was insane. Every day for the past 6 months mapped out. "Colin, what is this?" "I wanted to know what your days looked like," he mumbled. "So I tracked all your posts and figured out your routine. Sometimes I even drive by your gym or your office just to see if the schedule is right." "You've been following me?" "Not following, just checking, making sure my data is accurate." I opened another file. This one was titled Restaurant Analysis. It had every restaurant I'd posted from in the past year, organized by cuisine type, price range, and frequency of visits. There were notes like, takes clients to expensive steakhouses and posts brunch spots on Sundays with different people each time. June, are you seeing this? I was still on the phone with her. Keep looking. There's more. I found a Word document called Appearance Notes. It was pages long. Details about my haircut, my facial hair, my style choices. Recently started wearing more casual blazers instead of full suits. Looks more approachable but still professional. Should consider similar adjustment, like he was taking notes on how to be me. The next file made my stomach turn. It was called Social Patterns, a breakdown of everyone I interacted with on social media. Names, occupations, how often they appeared in my posts. There was even speculation about who was a business contact versus a friend. How long have you been doing this? I asked Colin. I don't know. A while. He's been obsessed for years. June's voice came through the phone. But it got really bad after their business started failing. He stopped working on actual projects and just spent all day on that stuff. That's why we're losing everything. He wasn't working. He was watching you. Colin looked up at me. Watching you succeed is the only thing that makes sense anymore. My life is falling apart, but yours keeps getting better. Following you, studying you, trying to understand what you do right. It's the only thing that gives me purpose. That's not purpose, Colin. That's obsession. Maybe, but it's all I have. I closed the laptop. June, I need you to document all of this. Take screenshots, save files, everything. You're going to need it. For what? Whatever comes next. This isn't normal. This is way past normal. I hung up and looked at my brother sitting on the edge of the bed, shoulders slumped, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. You need help, professional help. I need money. That's what I need. If I had what you have, I wouldn't need to watch your life. I could just live mine. That's not how this works. He stood up fast, suddenly animated. You don't understand. You've never understood. Everything is easy for you. It always has been. You just do things and they work out. I have to fight for everything and it still falls apart. Watching you is the only way I can figure out how to be better. By buying my clothes and tracking my gym schedule? By learning what success looks like. His voice cracked. I don't know how to be successful. I don't know how to make things work, but you do. So I study you. Is that really so crazy? Yes, Colin. It's exactly that crazy. He sank back onto the bed. The fight went out of him as fast as it came. I named him after you. What? My son. His middle name. It's your childhood nickname. The one Dad used to call you. I wanted a piece of you in my life every day. I felt something cold settle in my chest. You named your kid after me because you're obsessed with my life? Because you're the only person I know who has it figured out. And maybe if I kept you close, even just in a name, some of that would rub off on me or him. He pulled out his wallet and opened it. Inside were photos, not of June or his son, of me. School pictures from when we were kids, a photo of us at my high school graduation, even a picture from my college days that he must have taken from our parents' house. I carry these with me, he said softly. When things get bad, I look at them. I remember what you were like at different ages, how you acted, what you cared about. It helps me figure out who I'm supposed to become. You're supposed to become yourself. Myself isn't enough. Myself is failing. Myself is losing my house and my wife and my business. You're what enough looks like. The door to the apartment suddenly opened. I heard footsteps and voices. My Uncle Dave and my two cousins, the ones who'd cut off the family 5 years ago, walked into the bedroom. We're done, Dave said, looking at Colin. We tried to give your parents a chance. We tried to believe they'd come to their senses, but your mom just called me screaming about how we need to convince you to give Colin money. We're out. My cousin Ashley looked at the laptop still sitting on the bed. What's all that? Evidence that Colin's been stalking me for years, I said. Dave picked up the laptop and scrolled through a few files. His face went pale. Jesus Christ. It's not stalking, Colin said weakly. He's my brother. I'm just paying attention to his life. This is not paying attention, Ashley said. This is disturbing. My grandmother appeared in the doorway. She looked older than I remembered, tired. She didn't say anything at first, just looked around the destroyed apartment, at Colin sitting there with his wallet full of my photos, at the laptop with all his tracking documents. I knew, she said finally. I knew something was wrong with him 5 years ago. That's why I told you to let it go. I was afraid of what Colin might do if he lost. You knew he was like this? I asked. Not this bad, but I knew he had problems. Your mother would call me crying about how Colin would ask about you constantly, how he'd get upset when she didn't have updates. I thought if we just supported him and gave him what he wanted with June, maybe he'd feel like he won something and it would stop. It got worse, Colin said. Winning didn't help. It made it worse. Because even with June, even with the life I thought I wanted, I still wasn't you. I was still just Colin pretending. My grandmother walked over and sat next to him on the bed. You need to go somewhere, a hospital or a treatment center. This isn't something that gets better on its own. I'm not crazy. No one said you're crazy, but you're sick, honey. This is sick behavior. My mom's voice came from the living room. What's going on? Dave, why are you here? She appeared in the doorway with my dad right behind her. She saw all of us standing there, saw the laptop, saw Colin's face. What did you do? She asked me. What did you do to him? I didn't do anything. I came here because June called. Colin showed me everything himself. Showed you what? Dave handed her the laptop. Take a look. My mom scrolled through the files. Her face changed from defensive to confused to horrified. Colin, what is this? It's how I cope, he said simply. By stalking your brother? By trying to understand him. My dad took the laptop from my mom and looked for himself. He didn't say anything, just kept scrolling, his jaw getting tighter and tighter. How long have you known about this? I asked them. My mom's eyes filled with tears. I knew he looked at your social media. I didn't know about all this, but you knew something was wrong. She nodded slowly. He'd call me whenever you posted. Sometimes in the middle of the night, he'd ask me questions about you, about what you were doing, who you were seeing. He'd have panic attacks if I didn't have answers. I thought I was helping by keeping him updated. I thought it calmed him down. You were feeding his obsession. I was trying to keep my son stable. Her voice broke. You don't understand what it's like watching your child fall apart. He needed something to hold on to. So you let him hold on to me? You gave him information about my life for years? I gave him updates. I told him you were doing well, that you were happy. That's all. That's not all, Mom. You enabled this. Both of you did. My dad finally spoke. We were trying to help him by letting him destroy himself, by giving him what he needed to function. You left, okay? You started over and built this new life, and we were happy for you, but Colin was here drowning, and we did what we could to keep his head above water. Even if it meant sacrificing me, you were fine. You didn't need us. Colin did. The apartment went silent. My Uncle Dave shook his head and walked out. Ashley followed him. I heard the front door close. My grandmother stood up. I'm leaving too. I can't watch this family destroy itself anymore. She looked at me. I'm sorry I told you to let it go 5 years ago. I should have known better. I should have done better. She left, just walked out without looking back. My mom sat down on the bed next to Colin and put her arm around him. We'll figure this out, honey. We'll get you help. I don't want help, Colin said. I want his life. You can't have his life. Then I don't want anything. I picked up the laptop. I'm taking this. June's going to need it for the divorce. There's not going to be a divorce, my mom said quickly. They're going through a rough patch, but they'll work it out. Mom, he's been tracking my movements and buying my clothes and carrying around photos of me instead of his own family. June is done. She should be done. You don't get to decide that. Neither do you. I walked toward the door. My dad stepped in front of me. If you take that laptop, you're tearing this family apart. This family tore itself apart 5 years ago. I'm just refusing to put it back together for you. He didn't move. We stood there, eye to eye, until finally he stepped aside. I got into my car and drove home. The laptop sat on my passenger seat like evidence of something terrible I couldn't quite name. When I got back to my building, I went straight to my apartment, poured a drink, and sat on my couch staring at the city lights. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is June. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. My lawyer says the laptop will help. Thank you for getting it. I didn't respond. What was there to say? Another text came through. My mom this time. How can you live with yourself knowing you destroyed your brother's marriage? Then my dad. We need to talk about the money. Colin needs help and you're the only one who can provide it. Call me. Then Colin. Please, I'm begging you. Just give me what I need and I'll leave you alone forever. I promise. I blocked all 3 numbers and turned off my phone. The next morning, my assistant told me someone was waiting in the lobby again. I almost told her to call security, but then she said it was my Uncle Dave. I told her to send him up. He sat in my office, looking uncomfortable in one of my expensive chairs. I wanted to apologize for last night. For all of it, really. I should have stepped in years ago when we first suspected something was off. It's not your fault. Maybe not, but I enabled it by staying quiet. We all did. He pulled out his phone and showed me a text chain with my mom. Dozens of messages about Colin, about me, about how they were trying to manage Colin's behavior by controlling information about my life. She'd ask me to help keep tabs on you, send her updates when I saw your posts. I did it for a while before I realized what was happening. When did you stop? About 3 years ago. That's when Ashley and I really cut them off. But we should have said something to you. We should have warned you. I'm not sure it would have changed anything. Maybe not, but you deserve to know. He stood up. I'm here if you need anything. Testimony, support, whatever. I'm done protecting Colin at your expense. He left. I sat at my desk trying to focus on work, but I couldn't stop thinking about the photos on Colin's wall, the schedules tracking my life, the way he'd looked at me like I was the answer to a question he couldn't figure out how to ask. My phone rang. June. He showed up at my mom's house this morning, she said. Her voice was shaking. He was trying to take our son. Said you'd poisoned everyone against him and he needed to protect his child from our lies. My dad had to physically remove him. We called the police. Is he arrested? No, he left before they got here, but they're looking for him now. I'm terrified. I don't know what he'll do. Stay at your mom's. Keep the doors locked. Document everything. I am. My lawyer says I should get a restraining order. You should. Your mom called me this morning. She begged me to give him another chance. Said he's just sick and needs support. She actually said if I divorce him now, I'm the one destroying the family. I closed my eyes. June, you need to do what's best for you and your kid. Don't listen to her. I know, I'm not, but it's hard. She's crying and saying I'm abandoning him when he needs me most. That's manipulation. I know, but it still hurts. We hung up. My assistant came in with coffee and a concerned look. Are you okay? You seem stressed. Family issues. Anything I can help with? Not unless you can make people see reality. She smiled sadly. If I could do that, I'd be a billionaire. The rest of the day dragged. I couldn't focus on meetings, couldn't care about the quarterly numbers my team presented. All I could think about was Colin sitting in that dark apartment surrounded by pictures of me, convinced that studying my life would somehow fix his. That evening, my mom called from Colin's phone. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Please, she said, please just give him the money. He's talking about doing something drastic. He says if he can't fix his life, there's no point in living it. I'm scared. I'm really scared of what he might do. Mom, giving him money won't fix this. He needs professional help. He needs to feel like he has a future. The money would give him that. Please, I'm begging you. Before he does something we'll all regret. If he's threatening to hurt himself, call 911. I can't do that to him. They'll lock him up. Maybe that's what he needs. How can you be so cold? He's your brother, and you're my mother. But you chose him 5 years ago. You chose him when he stole my fiancée. You chose him when he married her 3 weeks later. You chose him every single day since then. So don't call me now expecting me to save him from himself. If something happens to him, it's on you. No, Mom. It's on you. You saw the signs. You knew something was wrong. And instead of getting him help, you fed his obsession with my life. This is what enabling looks like. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I poured another drink and stood at my floor-to-ceiling windows watching the city below. All these people living their lives, dealing with their own problems, completely unaware that somewhere across town my brother was falling apart because he couldn't stop comparing himself to me. My phone buzzed again. A text from Colin. I'm outside your building. I looked down at the street. There he was, standing on the sidewalk, staring up at my windows. Even from 20 floors up, I could see him pacing back and forth, phone in his hand. Another text. I just need to talk, please. I told my doorman not to let him up. I watched him on the street for 6 hours. He never left. Just walked back and forth, occasionally sitting on the curb, always staring up at my building. Security footage from the lobby cameras showed him trying to get in 4 different times. Each time, the doorman turned him away. At midnight, he was still there. I went down. He was sitting on the curb now, head in his hands. When he saw me coming, he stood up fast. He looked worse than before, like he hadn't slept or eaten in days. How often do you come here? I asked. 3 times a week, sometimes more. For how long? Over a year now. I drive by, see if your car's in the garage, see if your lights are on. Sometimes I just sit in my car and watch the building for a while. That's stalking, Colin. That's the only way I feel connected to you. He pulled out his phone and showed me a map. There were dozens of pins dropped at locations all over the city. These are all the places I've followed you to. Not following you directly, just going to the same places after you post about them. Your gym, your restaurants, that coffee shop you go to on Saturday mornings. I go there every weekend now. I order what you order. I sit where you sit. It makes me feel closer to what you have. I stared at the map. There had to be 50 pins, maybe more. When does it stop? I asked. When you give me what I need. Money won't fix this. It's not just money. It's everything. Your life, your success, the way people respect you. I need to feel like that. Just once. I need to know what it's like to be you instead of being the failure who watches you from a distance. You want to be me. I want to understand what makes you different. What makes you capable of all this while I can't even keep a business afloat. There has to be something. Some secret or trick or way of thinking that you have and I don't. There's no secret. I worked hard and got lucky. That's not enough of an answer. It's the only one I have. He grabbed my arm. Not aggressive, just desperate. Please, just tell me what I need to do. I'll do anything. I'll go to therapy. I'll delete everything. I'll never contact you again. Just give me the money so I can feel like I have one win. One thing that worked out. Please. I pulled my arm away. What happens to June and your son? His face went blank. What? If I give you the money, what happens to them? I don't know. I haven't thought that far. You haven't thought about your own kid? I can't think about him when I'm drowning. I can't be a father when I can't even be a person. So you'd abandon them? I'd give them a chance at something better than me. I looked at him standing there in the dark. This person who used to be my brother but had turned into something else entirely. Someone who valued competition with me more than his own family. I'll make you a deal, I said. I'll pay off your debts and set up therapy. But you have to admit publicly what you did to June. You have to tell our family the truth about the obsession. And you have to cut off all contact with them and me for a year while you get help. He stepped back like I'd slapped him. Admit it publicly? Yes. That would mean everyone knows I'm sick. Everyone should know. It would mean you won. It would mean admitting you were better all along. This isn't about winning, Colin. It's always about winning. That's the whole point. If I admit I'm sick, then you get to be the successful one who saved his broken brother. You get to be the hero and I get to be the failure everyone knew I was. I'd rather lose everything than give you that satisfaction. Then you're choosing to lose. He stared at me for a long moment. Yeah, I guess I am. He walked away. I watched him get into a beat-up Honda Civic parked down the street and drive off. I stood there on the sidewalk for a while, then went back upstairs. The next 3 days were quiet. No calls, no texts, no brother standing outside my building. I almost thought it was over. Then June called, her voice high and panicked. He broke into my parents' house. He was trying to take our son. He kept saying you'd turned everyone against him and he needed to protect his child from the lies. My dad had to wrestle him out the door. I'm terrified. I don't know what he's capable of anymore. Did you call the police? They're looking for him now, but he's not answering his phone and his car isn't at the apartment. I don't know where he is. I had a bad feeling. Send me the address of his foreclosed house. She did. I drove there immediately. The place was in a neighborhood I didn't recognize, one of those streets where half the houses have for sale signs and the other half look abandoned. Colin's house was dark. No cars in the driveway, but the front door was unlocked. I pushed it open. Colin? No answer. The house was empty. All the furniture was gone, probably repossessed or sold. The walls were bare except in the living room. In the living room, they were covered. Photos. Hundreds of photos. All of me. Taped to every surface, overlapping each other, creating a collage that covered 3 entire walls. Pictures of my penthouse, my cars, my office building, screenshots of my Instagram posts, printed articles about my company sale. Everything organized by theme and date, like a shrine to someone's obsession. In the center of the room was a camping chair, the only furniture left. Colin was sitting in it, phone in his lap, staring at the wall of photos. I've been coming here every day since the foreclosure, he said without looking at me. Just sitting here with these photos, imagining I'm the one living that life. It's the only place I feel calm anymore. Colin, this isn't healthy. I know, but it's all I have now. The business is gone. June is gone. My son is gone. This is what's left. I walked closer. The detail in the organization was disturbing. One section was just photos of my cars from different angles. Another was my apartment building taken from the street at different times of day. There was a timeline of my haircuts, my style changes, even the watches I wore in different photos. How long did this take? I asked. Months. I'd come here after June left for her mom's and just work on it, printing photos, arranging them, studying them, trying to figure out the pattern, the secret. What makes your life work while mine falls apart? There's no pattern. There's no secret. There has to be. Nobody just succeeds like you did without something. Some advantage or insight or way of thinking. I've studied you for years and I still can't figure it out. He stood up and walked to the wall, running his hand over the photos. When the business started failing, I couldn't focus on actual work. I'd just spend all day looking at your Instagram, analyzing your posts, tracking your patterns. It became more important than the business, more real than my actual life. That's when June should have gotten you help. She tried. I refused. Because getting help would mean admitting you won. Admitting I couldn't figure you out on my own. He turned to face me. Do you know what the worst part is? The business failing was almost a relief. It meant I could stop pretending to care about my own life and just focus entirely on yours. That's when I knew something was really wrong. When losing everything felt like freedom because it meant I didn't have to pretend anymore. Pretend what? That I wanted my own success. I don't. I want yours. I've always wanted yours. Even when I had June, even when I had the business, all I could think about was how it wasn't what you had. It wasn't enough. He sat back down in the camping chair, still holding his phone. I check your Instagram every 2 hours, even in the middle of the night. I have alarms set. If I miss a post, I have panic attacks. Real ones, where I can't breathe and I think I'm dying. The only thing that calms me down is looking at your life. I pulled out my own phone and opened Instagram, went to my settings, made my account private. What are you doing? Colin asked. Taking away your access. No, don't. Please don't. You need to stop, Colin. This has to end. It can't end. It's the only thing keeping me functional. If I can't see your life, I don't know what I'll do. You'll figure out how to live your own life. I don't know how to do that. His voice cracked. He stood up again, hands shaking. I've spent 5 years studying you, learning you, becoming you in every way I could. I don't know who I am without that. I don't know how to just be Colin when being Colin means being nothing. I looked at the walls covered in pictures of me, at my brother standing in an empty foreclosed house, surrounded by evidence of his obsession, completely lost. You need professional help, I said quietly. Real help. Not money, not access to my life, actual treatment. I don't want treatment. I want your life. You can't have it. Then I don't want anything. He picked up his phone and opened Instagram. My profile showed, this account is private. He stared at it for a long moment. Then he sat down on the floor, right there in the middle of all those photos, and started to cry. Not quiet tears, full sobbing, his whole body shaking. I stood there watching my brother fall apart in a dark house surrounded by pictures of me, and I realized this had never been about money or success or even June. This was about something much deeper and more broken, something that had probably always been there, waiting for the right trigger to bring it to the surface. I just happened to be that trigger. I pulled out my phone and called 911. I need someone for a mental health crisis, I said, giving them the address. My brother is having a breakdown. He's not violent, but he needs help. Colin looked up at me through his tears. What are you doing? Getting you what you actually need. I told you what I need. No, you told me what you want. There's a difference. The ambulance arrived 15 minutes later, 2 paramedics and a crisis counselor. They talked to Colin quietly while I stood in the doorway. He didn't fight them, didn't argue, just sat there on the floor surrounded by photos of me while they assessed him. The crisis counselor came over to me. He's agreed to voluntary admission. We're taking him to Harborview for evaluation. How long? Depends on the evaluation. Could be 72 hours, could be longer. They helped Colin to his feet and walked him out to the ambulance. He looked back at the walls covered in photos one more time before they let him outside. I stayed in the house after they left, staring at all those pictures of me plastered everywhere. I started tearing them down. It took almost an hour to pull them all off. Hundreds of photos, each one carefully printed and arranged. I loaded them into garbage bags and carried them out to the dumpster behind the house. 5 bags full of my own face. When I got back to my apartment, June was calling. The hospital called me, she said. They told me Colin was admitted. What happened? I told her everything. The house, the photos, the breakdown. She listened in silence. I knew it was bad, she said when I finished, but I didn't know it was that bad. None of us did. Your mom is blaming you. She's telling everyone you had him committed to avoid giving him money. Let her. She's saying you destroyed him. He destroyed himself. I just stopped enabling it. We hung up. I sat in my apartment looking out at the city lights and thought about Colin sitting in that camping chair day after day, surrounded by pictures of a life he'd never have, convinced that studying me hard enough would unlock some secret to being happy. The photos were gone now, torn down and thrown away, but the obsession wasn't. That was still there in his head, probably worse now that he didn't have his shrine to visit. I wondered if treatment would actually help, or if he'd just learn to hide it better. My phone buzzed. My mom. He's in the hospital because of you. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed your brother. I blocked her number, then my dad's, then every family member who'd chosen Colin's delusion over facing reality. I was done trying to make them understand. 3 weeks later, June's divorce was finalized. She got full custody. Colin was still in treatment, transferred from Harborview to a longer-term facility after his 72-hour hold revealed the depth of his issues. My Uncle Dave called to tell me the family had split into 2 camps, those who blamed me for everything and those who'd finally accepted that Colin needed serious help. I didn't care which camp anyone was in. I was done with all of them. Then, a month after that, my assistant told me someone was in the lobby asking to see me. June. I told her to send her up. She walked into my office looking different, lighter somehow, less weighed down. I wanted to thank you, she said, for calling 911 that night. The doctor said if Colin had gone much longer without intervention, it could have gotten really dangerous. How is he? Better, they say. He's on medication now. They diagnosed him with a bunch of things I can't pronounce. Obsessive-compulsive disorder, some kind of personality disorder, depression. He's going to be in treatment for a while. Good. She sat down. I also wanted to apologize for everything, for the engagement party, for the marriage, for all of it. I was young and stupid, and I let myself be manipulated. I should have seen what he was doing. We both should have seen it. Your family is still defending him, you know. Your mom visits him every day. She tells him you're the reason he's sick, that you made him feel inadequate, and that's why he ended up like this. That sounds like her. He's starting to believe it. His therapist says he needs to take accountability, but your mom keeps giving him an out, keeps telling him he's the victim. I wasn't surprised. My mother had been making excuses for Colin our entire lives. Why stop now? June stood up to leave, then paused. There's something else you should know. When they went through his stuff at the apartment, they found journals, years of journals, all about you, what you were doing, how it made him feel, his theories about why you were successful. The therapist said it's some of the most detailed obsessive documentation she's ever seen. What's going to happen to them? They're using them in his treatment to help him understand the progression of the obsession. But I thought you should know they exist. She left. I sat at my desk thinking about years of journals filled with my name, my life, my everything, all written by someone who should have been living his own story but got lost in mine instead. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. This is Dr. Reeves from Cascade Behavioral Health. I'm Colin's primary therapist. He's asked me to call you. What does he want? He wants to apologize. He's not ready to speak to you directly yet, but he wanted you to know he's starting to understand how his behavior affected you. It's part of his recovery process. Okay. He's also asked me to tell you something else. He wants you to know he's glad you made your Instagram private, that it's helped him realize how dependent he'd become on having access to your life. He says it was the kindest thing you could have done for him, even though it didn't feel kind at the time. I didn't know what to say to that. I can't share details about his treatment, Dr. Reeves continued, but I can tell you his prognosis is cautiously optimistic. With continued therapy and medication, we believe he can develop healthier patterns, but it's going to take time. Years, probably. Will he ever be normal? I don't think anyone's truly normal, but yes, with work, he can have a functional life, just probably not the one he imagined. We hung up. I never called Colin, never visited, never sent a message through his therapist. I was done being the center of someone else's universe. 6 months later, my Uncle Dave called to tell me my parents had filed for bankruptcy. They'd borrowed so much money trying to cover Colin's debts that they'd destroyed their own finances. They wanted to know if I'd help them. I said no. Dave didn't argue, just said, I figured. For what it's worth, I think you're making the right choice. How's Colin? I asked. Out of the facility, living in a supervised group home, working part-time at a grocery store. From what I hear, he's doing okay. Stable, at least. Does he still ask about me? According to your mom, he's not allowed to. It's part of his treatment plan. No contact with you, no information about your life, nothing. They're trying to help him build an identity that isn't based on comparing himself to you. Good. Your mom hates it. She keeps trying to give him updates and his therapist has to shut it down. She doesn't understand why you can't just reconcile, because some things can't be reconciled. Yeah, I'm starting to realize that. A year passed, then 2. I sold another company, bought a house in Maui, dated a woman who didn't know anything about my family drama, and liked it that way. Life moved forward. Then one day I was in Seattle for a business meeting and stopped at a coffee shop. The barista called out an order and Colin walked up to collect it. He looked different, healthier. He'd gained weight, his hair was cut neatly, his clothes fit properly. He didn't see me sitting in the corner. I watched him thank the barista, grab his coffee and leave. He didn't pull out his phone to check Instagram, didn't look around anxiously, just walked out like a normal person getting coffee. I realized I'd been holding my breath. 2 years after that, June sent me a message on LinkedIn. Wanted you to know your nephew is doing well. He's 7 now. Smart kid. Asks about his uncle sometimes. I tell him maybe someday. Hope you're good. I didn't respond. Some doors are meant to stay closed. Last month, I was back in Seattle again. I was walking to a restaurant when I saw my mom on the street corner. She was older, grayer, smaller than I remembered. She didn't see me. I could have walked over, said something, started a conversation that might lead somewhere. I kept walking. That night, I got an email from Colin, the first direct contact in 4 years. I know I'm not supposed to reach out. My therapist says I'm not ready, but I wanted you to know I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not just for the engagement party or the stalking or the breakdown. For all of it. For making your life about me. For turning you into something you never asked to be. I'm working now. Real work. I have a small apartment. I see my son every other weekend. I don't have social media anymore. Don't track anyone's life but my own. Some days are harder than others, but I'm trying. You don't have to respond to this. You don't have to forgive me. I just wanted you to know I finally understand what you tried to tell me that night in the foreclosed house. There was no secret, no pattern, no trick to figure out. You were just living your life, and I made it about mine. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're happy. And I hope someday I can say that without it feeling like losing. Colin. I read it 3 times. Then I closed my laptop and went to bed. I never responded.